Pirate Software is quitting, and he kinda lied about why. But before we jump in, we do need to talk about something. The Stop Killing Games initiative has passed the 1 million signature goal. This is huge. Like, genuinely, thank you to everybody that reached out, that watched videos, like anybody's videos, that pushed this out to the people that needed to get these signatures. If you reached out to people or if you signed yourself, thank you. This initiative was stuck at 460,000 signatures just 10 days ago. And in just those 10 days, we were able to reach that goal of 1 million signatures. But do not take this pat on the back from me or anybody else lightly. We still need more signatures. As it stands, there is a very good potential that people from the US that were using VPNs might have tried to sign this, that there were duplicate signatures, and that there are going to be some that are thrown out. So if we want to make sure that this stays above that million goal, we need new people to keep signing. So again, I will leave a link in the description to this website so that you can sign the EU petition as well as the UK petition as well, which is at 136,000 signatures, but getting more isn't going to hurt. We still had this deadline ending very shortly here, I believe in 2 weeks. Yes, right here, deadline 14th of July. But let's get back to what's happening with Pirate Software. So just last night, Pirate put out this tweet here: "I am no longer working at Offbrand Games. People were attacking all of the games we were publishing and trying to mass review bomb them. You can dislike the things I say, but this kind of behavior is unhinged. Learned a lot there, accomplished a lot, hope they succeed regardless, love those dudes and love working with them, hope they keep cooking." And for those of you who don't know, Offbrand Games is a game publisher, and they're known, I think most well-known for Rivals of Either 2, which of course is a sequel to Rivals of Either, a very well-known fighting game similar to Smash Brothers in that style. Now this publisher was founded by a couple of people, including Ludwig, who most people know. Now to be more specific, so Offbrand is originally a live production company, and it launched this Offbrand Games unit. So pretty much, like a branch of it. And this happened just a little over a year ago. This was back in June of 2024. And Pirate Software was hired on to play a big role in Offbrand Games as the company's new director of strategy. Now this is a blast from the past, but I actually have a privated video when I was doing gaming news and game reviews videos before I did the drama content of me covering this exact news story. Here's a little clip from that, and I think it's useful to show you guys to understand, a bit of the change in perspective that I've had about Pirate over this last year. Ludwig, in my opinion, hired one of the best people for the job to make sure that something terrible doesn't arise from this publishing company. And that's because Pirate Software, the Pirate Software, has accepted the role and position of director of strategy for Offbrand Games. So yeah, I'm very stoked, obviously, but all in all, regardless of if there's going to be hiccups along the way to start this, as it is a new publishing company entering the sphere of gaming, but I don't think that you could have found a better person to get started and to direct for strategy in a publishing company than the Thor. It's a match made in heaven, and when I found out about it, I genuinely got very excited. Yeah, so you can tell my perspective has shifted a bit about Pirate Software, drastically even. As a matter of fact, he was one of the first people that I attempted to reach out to ask for advice about how to make a better YouTube channel. Legitimately, Pirate Software and Ludwig both had very huge impacts on me starting my career as trying to be a YouTuber. And unfortunately, they have been the two people that I've been talking about the most in the last 2 weeks. But a specific thing that I had said, that I didn't think that they could have found a better person to be in the role that they put Thor in. Well, now they have to find somebody. But let's get back to the intro of this video. Pirate Software lying about this quitting. What do I mean by that? Now, I want to specify, because he actually addresses this in a follow-up reply. For those trying to say this is now somehow a lie, he talks about this. We're going to get into this part, but this here at the bottom is the thing I want to address first. He says, overall sentiment was to bash the games and the developers working on them to try to get back at me. Not worth bringing them down for my opinion. Also stop it, get some help. So this not worth bringing them down for my opinion, I think he genuinely means that. That is the part that I do not think he is lying about whatsoever. That's usually what ends up happening with these things. If one person that's a part of a company ends up getting a ton of flack, they'll step away because they don't want the entire thing to burn down, or the company itself doesn't want itself to burn down because they have this individual that's under so much hot water. But the thing that people are pointing out is this intro of his tweet here. People were attacking all of the games we were publishing and trying to mass review bomb them. Now, when you think of mass review bombs, a lot of people will think about stuff like Overwatch 2 hitting Steam, for example, mostly negative, 346,000 reviews. There was a huge huge mass review bombing of Overwatch 2. And admittedly, I think good part of it was because they deserved it. But there were some folks that actually did some research to see what was going on with this mass review bombing. Also, really quick here, if you guys aren't subscribed and you're enjoying the content from the last couple of days, if you could consider giving this a subscribe, you guys are the reason that I get to do this, that I'm getting to do this full time. I am genuinely so grateful, even if you're not going to subscribe or like the video, that you're just watching. Like seriously, just a few short weeks ago, it felt like I was circling the drain, and I've recently started to try to redouble my efforts and work hard on getting content out for you guys. And it seems like I'm doing a better job than I have been. And again, it's thanks to you guys for keeping me motivated to get this stuff out for you guys. And I promise you that I'll be covering the drama, whatever it ends up being down the road. But thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. Specifically, this gentleman here, Mischief, had done some research and started this Twitter thread. He said, none of Offbrand Games titles are getting review bombed. Ludwig and Pirate Software are both blatantly lying to seemingly further slander the Stop Killing Games movement. Incredibly weird and manipulative behavior from the both of them here. And he includes showcasing the most recent reviews of those games. And we can see that only a couple of reviews are negative. That is 6 negative reviews. And you can see the bar is about the same size right next to it, and then a few small ones here, and then a large one, which also, if you just look at the entire graph, it's not super out of the realm of normal. As a matter of fact, there's a ton of positive reviews that are showing up. And then they also showcased Ludwig's tweet from a couple of days ago here, talking about how he was getting mad that Rivals 2 is getting shit for this. And you did see when I was talking about Offbrand Games, there were a few other games that were under them, and he goes ahead and checks those as well, showcasing that the most negative reviews they had were back when it released, I think, back in November, leading into where it is now in July, which is just following the trend of the recent months. Now, this one is for Rivals of Either 2. And then following after that, this is the Bonnie Bear Saves Frog Time demo. There aren't any negative reviews. And then we can also see here for the Aethermancer demo, nothing showing up as well except for originally on back in February and March. And then you can see over here the more recent stuff. There has been one negative. That entire bar is encompassing a single negative review. And so that happened 3 times in those days. Now, I actually will say, looking at this, I might need to do some research myself because this is only going up to June 23rd, it's looking like, or something close to that. So let me double check these numbers. But a game that is receiving a lot of hate is Pirate Software's own game Heartbound, which has been in development for 8 years at this point. And we can see here recently, also, I'm assuming, you know, tied to the negative drama that he's surrounded himself in the last like 4 months here, it's now starting to spike tremendously. And you can see 33 negative, and these other ones falling behind it, about maybe 20 each day. And I'll try to zoom in for you guys for this part, but you can see here, this is leading into July 1st. It's looking like 7 negatives have come in today, and it looks like 6, 1, 1, 1, nothing crazy here. But then showing the Aethermancer, still 1, 1, 1. And then here the Bonnie Bear Saves Frog Time demo, that is also no negatives are showing up. And actually that is the most recent, as you can see, June 16th. And so if we're looking at all these Offbrand Games reviews, we're not seeing this mass review bombing that's happening. There's none of it. Now it's possible, because I don't quite understand this, and maybe someone can correct me in the comments, but if they're going to be doing these massive negative reviews that aren't warranted or are not talking about the video game itself, from what I understand, Steam will remove those like illegitimate reviews, because this has happened in the past. So even then, those usually won't impact the game because they will be remedied. Again, save for like Overwatch 2, but again, those are talking about the video game, not some movement surrounding it, not some movement adjacent that is upset with someone working there. But I think this is what he was trying to clear the air about in this follow-up tweet after him saying that he was stepping away from Offbrand. He says the abuse was across socials, people on Discord, Twitter, Reddit, and some reviews on Steam. Whoa, okay, hold on. Let me just scroll up a little bit here. People were attacking all of the games we were publishing and trying to mass review bomb them. So that is a lie, because there's a difference, I would argue, I think a lot of people would argue, between mass review bombing and some reviews on Steam, which you could argue also just match up with the general trend of negative reviews of these games. Now, I'm sure there were some illegitimate ones that were showing up, duh. Like, there's of course going to be a couple of people that are going to do that regardless, but these numbers do not even come close to legitimizing that argument that they were getting mass review bombed. And to be clear, just like Ross, I'm using the second definition of lie that he points out here. It's not to make an untrue statement with intent to deceive, but to create a false or misleading impression. And that's because I haven't combed through Offbrand's social medias. I haven't combed through Pirate Software's to see anybody talking about Offbrand Games specifically. I'm sure that they are receiving heat in the other forms of media like he lists, where there was social media, people on Discord, Twitter, Reddit, things like that, of course. But he is 100% creating a misrepresentation of what's going on by saying that they were trying to mass review bomb them. It is simply not the case. So I wanted to flesh that out, but I also just wanted to talk about his philosophy with why he's upset about this. And to make that point, I just want to read these specific points again. He says, you can dislike the things I say, but this kind of behavior is unhinged in relation to what his accusations were about the mass review bombing, people hating Offbrand Games because he's simply a part of it. And then on the second tweet, he says, overall sentiment was to bash the games and the developers working on them to try to get back at me. And I think this gentleman right here, Legendary Drops, he's a YouTuber that covers gaming news, game review stuff. He's incredible. Highly recommend you check him out. I really like how he put it. How many games flop because a dev pops off on social media risking their game in studio? Tell me you haven't stopped using a product or left a bad review because you disagreed with the views of one of their leaders. You're a public figure. You are every product you touch. You remember all of the flack that Helldivers 2 was getting because Sony was being a bitch because they were trying to force everyone to log into a PlayStation Network account, which also meant that they were essentially region locking a lot of their game from a lot of people who couldn't even create a PSN account. They got review bombed to shit, and Pirate Software was a big voice in that endeavor. And Arrowhead Studios, the developers of the game, weren't able to stop Sony from forcing people to do that. So Arrowhead Studios and Helldivers 2 was suffering because of Sony's decisions to do this. Helldivers 2 was actually getting mass review bombed, and they weren't the ones making the decision. And I can't believe that I didn't bring this up earlier, but even if what Pirate Software was saying was true, that people were mass review bombing, were doing these things, or actually, you know, the stuff that he's talking about, reaching out to the social medias, the tweets, the Reddit threads, everything like that. Pirate Software is reducing the ways that people can communicate this negative feedback. Obviously, there's a lot of it. Obviously, you know, it is a ton. He's gotten the idea, I'm sure, but he will ban people from his Twitch chat. He has started deleting YouTube comments, which we covered in the video yesterday. He's also made it very clear that he will, and you know, at this point, we can pretty much assuredly guarantee that he will never speak with Ross, the guy who is leading this initiative for Stop Killing Games. He is blocking off every single avenue of communication to him, and now what's left is the publishing company that he is working at. Or worked at. He's essentially funneling all of these people into the very few places that they feel that they can actually get their voices heard and communicate about their dislike for Pirate. And maybe that is a very surface level take, but I was just thinking about it. You know, the more he's going to reduce all these other avenues to actually communicate with them, they're going to start trying in other places. And it's good for Offbrand Games that they're, you know, it seems like most of this hate that they're talking about is showing up on the social medias and not the actual Steam page where people, you know, they'll take that in before they make a purchase. But yeah, if you say something stupid or you have horseshit opinions that nobody agrees with, yeah, they're going to give you crap, and anything that you're touching, they're also going to give it shit. Like, do you guys remember when they were teasing Diablo Immortal, when they did the announcement for that and the infamous, you guys all have phones, right, thing got out?
Is there any plans to make this playable on PC, or is this just strictly mobile forever?
Are there any? The current plan is to be on mobile, both Android and iOS. We don't have any plans at the moment to do PC. Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones, right?
Now, that guy didn't have a huge social media following or anything like that, but they received a ton of hate after that, and he was representing Blizzard. So Blizzard received a ton of hate. You, as the director of strategy at a publishing company for video games, having a terrible opinion that misrepresents an initiative about helping consumers when it comes to games, yeah, your opinions are going to have an impact on the publishing company. I'm blown away that he has turned this into, how are you guys being so pathetic and childish? And it just feels like he's wildly missing the point, or intentionally missing the point, that those are connected. But yeah, I'm curious to hear what you guys think, because I'm so confused at his response and how he's trying to paint this, and the fact that he has gone out of his way to yet again misrepresent what is even happening for Offbrand. It's just, it's his brand at this point to do that. But that's it for the video today, guys. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to leave a like, get this out there, and I'll see you guys later. Adios. Peace. Bye.